It just shows you, just because you got a few gray hairs doesn't mean you're over the hill. You still got a lot of energy.
He's been very idiosyncratic, Mayor. He just wants to do things or he doesn't want to do things. And my classic example of that is, there was no voicemail for 20 years because, Tommy just didn't like voicemail. He wanted people to call up and get a human voice. And in a way he was right, but in a way he was wrong. You had to call 4 times to do things that would have taken 1 call if you could have left somebody a message.
It's quite a candidate to cover. A very clever mayoral candidate, a little-known city councilor at the time, district city councilor, became acting mayor when Ray Flynn left, and he took full advantage of all the kind of benefits of being acting mayor and the incumbency that went with it.
His first big splash that was kind of funny was as acting mayor. At the time, water rates were soaring for some big dig-related reason, and he announced that he was freezing water rates. And the joke was that he had no authority to freeze water rates, but the MWRA, which actually had control over it, sort of blinked and backed down, and he declared victory, and he was the mayor who was going to be on your side. And that was sort of the beginning of Menino as this great populist and as this urban mechanic, as he was often referred to. The biggest thing he's criticized for is being such a control freak, One of the reasons he's had so little opposition over the years is because he has crushed opposition, to be honest. When opponents hold fundraisers, Menino's people call their funders and ask them what they think they're doing. Don't you know he can't beat the mayor, that kind of thing,
Don Menino likes to have control. I remember driving around with him when he was a mayoral candidate, acting mayor in '93, and he saw some like broken down fence as we were driving, and he yanked up the phone, his cell phone in his car, and called the DPW and told him to get out to this person's house and make sure they get it fixed. I mean, that's the level he's at, like somebody's fence in Jamaica Plain. Does that prevent you from seeing the larger picture of what a major American city should be? It may, and it's a legitimate concern. Has it in this case? I mean, the reality is you look around the city and you might be a little hard-pressed at this particular moment to find out what he should have done that he didn't.
When I think about Boston in 1993 versus Boston now, there are 2 things that really jump out at me. One is the way it's changed so much demographically, which is one thing he had a feel for, which is that the whole idea of Irish enclaves and Italian enclaves was gradually going to go away. We used to talk about white Dorchester. There is no white Dorchester anymore. I'm not saying that it's not still a significantly segregated city, but it's a much more diverse city, and he has been great about embracing that diversity and sort of managing that change. The other thing that Menino will be remembered for is the improvement in the quality of life. There's almost no neighborhood you can point to in Boston that isn't a better place to live in than it was in 1993. And a lot of that has been his focus on issues down on the ground. It's important to say that he followed Kevin White, who was considered a downtown mayor, who was responsible for a lot of development downtown and things like that. After White, we had Flynn, whose focus was on the neighborhoods, and Menino has become kind of a hybrid of the 2.
Tom Menino's calling card has always been the fact he's out in the neighborhoods, he's around, he's visiting with people, he's at every possible event. I mean, you've heard the old cliche, he's at the opening of an envelope.
A little light incident happened once when there were 2 menorah lightings during the holiday season, and there were 2 rabbis. They were basically battling for the right to get the mayor to their particular lighting, which were half-hour apart. And the mayor decided to go to both of them. And that was his solution. He never, ever passed up an opportunity to be at something.
The critics say, and they have said this for a long time, that he's not particularly visionary. They may be right, but yet whatever he's done, the result has been we have a city that seems to have some vision to it right now. He's not a particularly big picture guy. I think by his own estimation, he relies on others to do some of that for him. But what his strength is he takes a lot of the little pieces and assembles them into a bigger picture. It's a little bit rare, unfortunately, to have a mayor of a major American city not bogged down in any way at all by corruption. And for a variety of reasons, Menino never has been. And believe me, not for lack of trying on our part. I mean, we have looked high and low. And, yes, we found some issues that raised some eyebrows, association with developers and the like, his familiarity with developers, but nothing that is remotely overtly corrupt. He's a guy, a politician that is the antithesis of the blow-dried people who probably dominate Washington, D.C. He's not a guy who goes out and relies on talking points mostly because he couldn't possibly recite them. I mean, he's in a daily gladiator fight with the English language.
Including a great American name, Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr.
I remember the first speech he gave when he was acting mayor in 1993, and there were floods in the Midwest. The Mississippi River was flooding, and so Tommy's Gun, as we all called him then, was giving this speech asking people to bring their canned goods to City Hall. We're going to send corn to Iowa for some reason, right? And whether it's the nerves or the moment or whatever it is, he just cannot get the words out of his mouth. Like all of a sudden, he can't pronounce the word corn. And I was covering City Hall at the time with Brian McGrory and Peter Canellis, and I remember going back up to the bureau and saying, Tommy's never going to make it. He just can't, he can't get through a campaign. He can't make a speech. And 20 years later, here we are. He's the longest serving mayor in the history of the city.